Let's knock them out cold, my friends. We have unverified reports of Ukrainian forces taking Lysychansk today. If this is true, this is huge. Lysychansk is the front city before Severodonetsk. These two cities are connected. To take Severodonetsk, you need to take Lysychansk. 14th of September, we skip forward. You can see that nothing really changed. Ukraine is only consolidating gains. The only area they are pushing is here. Supposedly they have crossed the Severodonetsk river from Bilogarivka here, like that. It doesn't show on this map for some reason. This happened a few days ago. And supposedly unconfirmed they have taken Lysychansk, also doesn't show on this map like that. This is Lysychansk, this here is Severodonetsk. They are separated by the Severodonetsk river. Per Ukrainian military doctrine, which is coming closer to NATO, they're trying to avoid costly urban battles to save manpower and equipment. If we remember, Russia took Severodonetsk a few months ago, and that was one of their most costly cities to take. Time will tell if Ukrainian forces will penetrate into Severodonetsk. I think what is more likely is a future push from Kupiansk like that, and a future push from Izium direction like that, threatening to cut off Severodonetsk forces from the rest of the occupied area so Russians would pull out. This would be a great victory, so you wouldn't have to fight in the city. Fighting in the city with thousands of men storming the enemy positions, this is Russian-styled warfare. Ukraine is not doing that. Ukrainians only fought in Izium minor battles. They didn't have to take it street by street, which is what they don't want to do. If you can avoid it, avoid it. I will quote now, Kupiansk has surrendered. The enemy is on the left bank of the Iskil. This is the pro-Russian military blogger Vladlen Tatarsky, with almost 500,000 subscribers. Why am I quoting a Russian military blogger, Telegram user? Because Ukrainians are really good with holding back information. This was the key in the success of the Kharkiv assault. And after that Kharkiv assault, surprisingly Russian military bloggers have been telling more and more truth. Some of them are disillusioned about Kremlin. See, this here is the Oskil River, this is Kupiansk, and supposedly Ukraine today took this part on the other side of the Oskil River. This is a preparation ground for the future push. But as of now, I think they're holding. Yes, Ukraine has 2 or more bridgeheads over the Oskil River, including Kupiansk now, but this is just to prepare for the coming offensives. Honestly, I don't think we can expect a major push from Kharkiv direction anytime soon, because the last offensive just happened and it was huge. Ukraine is only consolidating gains right now, and the last offensive was planned for months. We are on the southern front, 15th of September. I will skip forward. There's not much changes on the front lines, but we get reports that some units are considering surrender, the whole units. This process takes time. Ukraine has been softening up the battlefield every day, destroying Russian positions with Air Force and HIMARS. If you get Russian troops to surrender without a fight, there is no need to push, because pushing you will lose troops and vehicles. Ukrainians are supposedly winning this battle here without pushing. The only area Russians are actively pushing right now is this. Estonian military bloggers call this the Bakhmut direction, this city Bakhmut. Russians are trying to take it because ages ago, months ago, the plan was to connect these forces to Izium grouping to cut off this Ukrainian part here. So much has happened in the last months that this plan is pointless, but for some reason, if the orders come from Moscow, it has to be fulfilled. Strategically, pushing from this direction has no goal whatsoever anymore to Russians, but they still push, and for months they have been pushing. They advance very slowly here. I don't know why they push there, nobody does, it has no point. Ukrainians just keep knocking them out cold. My friends, I want to thank the Patreons. YouTube age restricts some of my videos and demonetizes others. So Patreons are the people who help me do these videos. I'll read you 5 names. Jochen Simmons, Kristop Herr, Ölua Naik, Keijo Ylonen, Anastasia Tusnyakov, Philo Geograbher. Thank you to these people. If you want me to butcher your name, become tier 10 and above. Link is in the description below. Russia has transferred their air defense systems S-300 from around St. Petersburg, second biggest city of Russia on the border with NATO, to Ukraine. On paper, Russia has hundreds of these S-300 complexes, but in reality, a huge number has been captured and a huge number has been destroyed, and Russia cannot produce anymore because of sanctions. And the fact is, they wouldn't bring these systems to Ukraine from St. Petersburg, the city that definitely needs them, if they wouldn't absolutely have to do it. This tells us that Russia is lacking these systems, they are in deficit. Also, Russia has already emptied all of their Syrian bases from these S-300s. What is next? Moscow, leaving Russia completely vulnerable to air attacks. This small Ukrainian unit is crossing a river. We can only assume it's Severodonetsk or the Askil River. They're crossing it with a rubber boat or inflatable boat under artillery fire, making it a very Hollywood-like escape. Artillery explosions produce a lot of shrapnel in the air, and the tiniest shrapnel would be enough to take this boat down, but luckily enough, miraculously, they're fine. Russian military bloggers and Russian command in Ukraine are complaining that there are tiny, very fast and maneuverable Ukrainian units behind enemy lines. It's not a huge push, it's the fight of these small, mobile units, 5-6 man units, maybe a squad, infiltrates behind enemy lines, does a hit and run, then runs back. This could be one of these missions, and Russians are very afraid of these units because they're fast, they're quiet, and they know the terrain, it's the home ground. Some people in the comments say that Ukrainians should not take prisoners anymore after what Russia has done to Ukrainian people. This is not an option for Ukraine. I remind you that Russia has forcefully deported over 2 million Ukrainian citizens to Russia who are still in Russia. This includes mostly women, children and elderly people. Russia holds these 2+ million citizens as a weapon against Ukraine because these are the wives, sons, daughters and mothers and fathers of Ukrainian soldiers. If Ukraine wants to get these families back, they need to have something in return. And this is Russian POWs. The more they get, the better their hand is on the bargaining table. There is no option to not take prisoners for Ukraine. They simply need them to get their families back. Look at these liberated Russian positions. Chaos, trash. Everything here screams the lack of discipline. The way military positions look like tells a lot about the country's culture and discipline. This is not an isolated trash pile here. It is like that in every Russian position in Ukraine, and it is like that in, drumroll, Russia. This is their culture for some reason, I don't understand. Take my country, Estonia. We are very pedantically clean. We clean our forests, streets routinely. We have these huge nationwide cleaning events yearly. Thousands of people take part in it and they just clean random forests everywhere. But we have 300,000 Russians in Estonia, and immediately if you enter the areas in the cities where mostly Russians live, you notice trash on the ground. You know, the Russians call them semechki, we call them sivkad in Estonian. Sunflower seeds, you know, you eat them, you spit out the shell. They're everywhere, piles of them everywhere. Street benches are damaged, trash bins on the streets are broken. Trashing around, unfortunately, is a part of Russian culture nowadays. I don't understand it and it makes me sad. Very sad, knocked them out cold. This Ukrainian border guard sees his family, his son, for the first time since the war started, for the first time in 6 months. I don't have to describe it, the emotion is all over this video. This is what the Ukrainians have, families, this is what they're fighting for. And this is what the Russians don't understand and what they don't have in Ukraine. They cannot win. When I first saw this video, tears came into my eyes. So wholesome it is. For the first time ever, a Russian main battle tank T-90M was captured by the Ukrainians. This is the newest, the baddest, the latest Russian main battle tank. For the people going crazy right now, T-14 Armata. T-14 Armata does not exist outside of blueprints. Only 20 of them are made and they don't work properly. Russia is simply unable to produce them. And T-90, only about 300 of them have ever been produced, making it one of the rarest Russian tanks in Ukraine. Capturing one is a prize. EU is suspending 65% of funds to Hungary. In the European Union, every country gets a lot of money from the EU, billions, tens of billions, so suspending that money is a harsh punishment. But Hungary has been pro-Russian. I cannot fit into my head. Hungary is in the EU. The Prime Minister Viktor Orban has far-right views, almost fascist views, and is siding with Putin. He is against sanctions and still buying Russian gas and oil with no plan to stop it. I don't understand how this country is still in the EU. Viktor Orban and Hungary right now are trying to break the unitary response to the Russian aggression in Ukraine. Zelensky said in his latest video that after great victories there must be preparation for the next ones. I will quote now. Perhaps it seems to someone now that after a series of victories we have a certain lull, but this is not a lull, this is a preparation for the next sequence. For the next sequence, words that are very important to us all and definitely must be heard, because Ukraine must be free, the whole of it. The whole of it means Crimea also. Kharkiv offensive was prepared for months and the outcome was very positive. The next one has to be prepared with the same attitude, not to force it beforehand. 73% of Americans support Ukraine's accession into NATO, report Chicago Council Service. The number is similar with Sweden, Finland and Georgia. Not the state Georgia, but the country Georgia next to Russia. Finland and Sweden are warmly welcomed into NATO and it still takes a year or two for them to join. I mean, Ukraine would take decades, unfortunately. And a little secret I think is that Ukraine don't need NATO. They have proven to the whole world that they can fight, they only need weapons. In Ukrainian geographical positions you would need NATO against Russia, but Ukraine is not in NATO and they're still kicking Russia's ass. I don't see why they need NATO. Ukraine is trying to get the United Nations in with their plan to make Russia pay reparations after the war is done and to use Russian funds and assets in EU to repair Ukraine. Russia has billions of dollars worth of assets in the EU like yachts, villas, cars. All of the oligarchs' properties should be sold and the money should go to Ukraine to rebuild the nation after the war. The problem with sending money directly to Ukraine is, drum roll, you guessed it, corruption. Ukraine is unfortunately very corrupt as of now, and sending money directly there means it will get lost. It's better to send, for example, military equipment. It's the same with rebuilding the country. If you send money to Ukraine to rebuild the nation, the money will get lost. The only way for the EU to help rebuild Ukraine is to send their own companies there who do the physical work. Otherwise, corruption will eat the progress, unfortunately. One of Russia's most popular singers, Alla Pugacheva, has called out Russian government to call her a foreign agent in protest of the war. For other cultures in Europe or in America, one of the popular singers, one of the pop stars, no, she has been the most popular Russian and Soviet singer for 50 to 60 years. This is not just a pop star, this is an icon, an idol for the Russian people. Russians do love their pop stars in a different way, they worship them. That is Alla Pugacheva. She came out strongly anti-war now. This is huge, this is bigger than I would say Britney Spears comes out anti-war. This is Alla Pugacheva. For Russians, she's a goddess. This illustrates the cracks happening in the Russian society. It is split now. More and more people, more and more prominent people coming out as anti-war. And let me remind you, you can go to jail for tens of years in Russia for this. So very brave, Alla Pugacheva. My friends, thank you for watching, thank you for staying with me. If you like the channel, then the Patreon link and Knock 'em Out Cold merch is in the description below. Until my next video, Slava Ukraini!